D. Mace Finken and Donick 1025, 1063 The Game, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, and David Janes here with you. Hello, everybody. Just a few hours later from 11 a.m., now at 3 p.m. We used to accompany you on your lunch break. Now we will join you on your ride home. I hope everybody is having a wonderful start to their week. I hope no hot dog trucks had any accidents.
I feel like that is the case in our state, at least today. It was not the case in Pennsylvania.
Yes, in case you missed it, a truckload of hot dogs spilled across a Pennsylvania interstate Friday, and it clogged rush hour traffic.
No pun intended. Clogged.
Yes. So
apparently hot dogs are quite slippery, according to some of the quotes of the people assigned to clean these up.
I'm sure. I am sure. Is that even meat? That's why it's so slippery. But that's another
a discussion for
right.
another day.
That's a discussion for another day.
Hope that your ride home with us doesn't involve any hot dog related mishaps.
Exactly.
But we are so glad to be here with you on your drive home. We will be on with you every Monday through Friday from 3 to 6. For those of you who listen to us from 11 to 2, hello, welcome back. For those of you who are trying us out for the first time, welcome. We look forward to having you. And quickly, before we start, because I was on vacation last week, I have not had an opportunity to acknowledge Jared Stillman, which I want to do quickly. When I found out that Willie, Derek, and I were moving to this time slot, I had mixed emotions. Although I am incredibly excited about this opportunity, it also means that Jared is not our teammate anymore. And Jared played a part in me being here. He offered me guidance on how to be an effective and engaging radio host, even though our approaches to this job are completely different. So I just want to take this moment to thank Jared for all he did for this station over the past 10 years, but also what he did for me. And I know that our friendship will extend beyond these airwaves. I look forward to running into him at preschool drop-off because our sons attend the same preschool. But I just want to take this moment to thank Jared for what he has helped me with as I become a full-time radio host and all he did for this station. But looking forward to being here from 3 to 6. And Willie and Derek, I thought it would be good quickly to take an opportunity to sort of introduce ourselves, because there are people listening to us right now who didn't have the opportunity to listen to us from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. You're on your way home. You're used to one voice. Now you have 3 others. I thought now would be a good time just to let the listeners know what we're all about.
Yes, for me, I'm really excited about the opportunity. And at the same time, as we said, Derek and I had a chance to talk about this on Friday, our respect for Jared and appreciation for even a guy like me who, if we can make it till September 7th, guys, that would be my 32nd anniversary of doing sports talk radio, most of it in drive time. So it's going to be it's been a while since I've been on in drive time, but I'm really excited about the opportunity. But you always want to get better. You always want to learn. And I learned some things from Jared, even though as you said, Adam, we could not be more different. In our styles, our way to go. And I think our show, you'll find, is going to be different, but we hope better and more effective. That's our goal anyway. And I can't wait to get started. I think the 3 of us, for people that maybe haven't had a chance to listen to us, if this is your time of the day where you listen, and there's a lot of people in that routine, we hope to be a part of your routine because I think we have a unique way. I think we have the best way of speaking all the languages that the sports fans in Nashville want to hear. We have Derek, who is going to be incredible as the way we pick through what's going on with the Titans. Adam and I have a lot of ability to set things up through statistics, the analytics, to go with our opinions. Derek is the eye of somebody that understands what it's like in a locker room playing the way he did. Obviously, with the Predators, we think we have insights beyond any other show in the market. And I don't think there's anywhere close to being true anywhere else. So we're excited about that facet of it here on the Predators flagship station, and everything else with college football. I think you're going to find going forward what we're going to do with our show. We'll have great characters for college football, and everything else that's interesting to Nashville sports fans.
We're going to get into the sports, people. You know that. And I've never shied away from giving my opinion. I will be completely fair on both ends, whether it be with the Predators or with the Tennessee Titans or Vanderbilt or UT or any other sports team within this market. I'm always fair. I'm going to tell the good, and I'm also tell the bad as well. So that's what you're going to hear from us. And Willie said it perfectly. We all, we all bring a different style, but I think our styles you will enjoy because we all mesh together. We're like Voltron. We all come together and we form this big, devastating radio machine. And you like that, don't you, Adam?
I prefer I prefer Megazord.
Megazord.
Power Rangers.
Oh my goodness! See that tells you the age group, Willie.
Yes.
He go to Megador, whatever that is. Megazord, and I go to Voltron. I think Voltron can beat Megazord.
All right. Well, we'll talk about that.
But we'll talk about all that.
Yes.
But people, you're gonna get it. You're gonna get it fair. We're gonna give our opinions. Some opinions may be heated, some may not. But you are going to get what you need when you're listening to this station from 3 to 6, Monday through Friday. You're going to get it raw. You're going to get it fun. You're going to get everything you want within this station.
And a lot of the guests who you were accustomed to listening to during this time slot will be with us now. We'll have Teron Davenport starting today at 4 o'clock. We had TD on the midday show. He will be with us every Monday. Trevor Maddich will join us on Tuesdays. Chad Withrow will join us on Fridays. We will be taking over the weekly interview of Predators general manager Barry Trotz during hockey season. And some of our weekly guests will be joining us as well. Jonathan Hutton will be with us. Elliot Freeman will be with us, and many more. So we are looking forward to this. It's a new challenge. Willie is jacked up. Let me tell you about Willie Donick. Willie Donick, he keeps it even keeled.
He was back there stretching. He was ready.
He was
got a little bit of a tight hammy, but I'm okay.
He is excited, and seeing Willie excited gets Derek and I excited as well. So we're happy that you're all here and that we're here with you as well. Okay. So I was on vacation last week.
Mm-hmm.
I did listen a little bit. I heard you guys talk about it, saying, I bet Adam's listening live right now. Joke's on you. Listen to the podcast.
But you were listening.
I did, because it's important to keep up even when I'm on vacation. And I know that both of you went out to multiple Titans practices. I heard Cam Ward struggled in some of those practices. I felt like a lot of Titans fans were turning into Chicken Little. The sky is falling. The sky is falling. Cam Ward is throwing interceptions at practice. That's part of the drill, as Derek knows full well. But Brian Callahan reportedly ended practice yesterday with what Terry McCormick described as a profanity-filled tirade directed at his offense. Now, we don't have audio or video of this because reporters who were there are not allowed to record those conversations. They're not allowed to transcribe those conversations. So we don't know exactly what Brian Callahan said, but it was described as a profanity-filled tirade because of the offensive's struggles. And here's the question I was thinking about, guys. Should we be surprised that the offense is struggling this mightily at the start of training camp? They have a rookie quarterback. Mm-hmm. Remember, earlier, well, it would have been last month now because it's August 4th. A couple weeks ago, Bill Barnwell of ESPN.com did a ranking of every team's playmakers, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends. The Titans had the worst collection of playmakers in the NFL, according to Bill Barnwell. So when I hear that the offense isn't doing so well in practice, I'm not shocked to hear that. But the two of you were out at practice last week. To hear Brian Callahan apparently ending practice with, again, a profanity-filled tirade, are you surprised by his reaction based on what you saw in practice last week?
No, I'm not surprised. It happens. This team has been up and down in practice. Willie can attest. The days we were out there, they end up having a bad practice, then a somewhat better practice the next day. But it just wasn't as consistent as coach would have liked it to be. You got to understand, they got 4 new guys on this offense, including the quarterback. And they're trying to throw as much as they possibly and humanly impossible they can throw at Cam Ward. And when you do that, and I talked about this last week, Willie, when you do, because you never want to slow the train up, because you have other guys within the offense that may learn at a faster pace and you're holding them back. So with the quarterback, you want to go at a pace you set for him and you don't want to go back. What they're doing now, I think they're throwing the kitchen sink at Cam. And when that happens, you're going to get practices that are not consistent as they need to be. But, when it happens too many times, and it's not just, I don't think it's not just the execution, because I think coaches, when it comes to executing, they understand, like, some plays are going to hit, some plays are not. It's not the executing. I guarantee you there were false starts, there were penalties, the offense was lackluster. That's what tends to get on a coach's nerve, when not only are we not executing, and I know that happens in practice, but there's no energy in practice, there's penalties in practice. That is the only time, especially when you have an offensive coach or a coach that feels like this offense has more to give than what they're giving, then they're going to blow a gasket. And he has every right. He's setting a tempo. He wants to get as far away from that person he was last year as humanly possible, because the person he was last year didn't seem to have sort of a firm stance on the team or with the team. He had to completely change it this year. And by changing it, things like this occur when not only is it we're not executing, but there's no energy, practice is lackluster, everything just doesn't seem to be flowing the way we need it to flow. And I'm tired of it.
I do think it's important, because I think it is 100% clear to everybody who's watching Titans practice is that the young quarterback is going through some struggles and the offense in general is struggling. But as I look around the league, and I've pointed out some examples to you guys throughout the day in preparation for I saw Justin Fields 5 for 16 today at practice. I saw on ESPN earlier today, they listed all of the quarterbacks who are, they've got 27 quarterbacks, I think, for Cleveland, vying for the starting job.
I think 28.
I think Brady Quinn is one of them, but they all had numbers that didn't look very good. Some better than others. Here's a headline from ESPN. Steelers, defense dominates, as expected, through Sunday's practice. So it is not uncommon, even for teams that don't have rookie quarterbacks. Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback for Pittsburgh, and you just see this headline. He's been talking about how tough it is to go against the defense. That this is happening some around the league, so you have to keep that perspective. I heard Denard Wilson talking about the install, and he said, look, we're not coming into practice saying, how do we make Cam Ward better? I'm installing our defense, and our defense is complicated. Our defense is about deception. Our defense is about bringing pressure from a lot of things. So we're throwing a lot of things at Cam Ward, and hopefully that's going to make him better quicker. But at the same time, I think it is fair to say that it's not pretty sometimes when you watch play in and play out what's happening with Ward.
Although, again, we do not have audio of Brian Callahan's profanity-filled tirade. Players discussed it after practice yesterday. Here was Peter Skoronski after practice yesterday talking about Brian Callahan.
I heard Callahan voicing some displeasure at the end of practice. How do you put a day like today into perspective in terms of the highs and lows of going through camp?
There's always going to be highs and lows. I feel like I've been through a good handful of days of man, that was not a good day offensively. We didn't execute at our top at the way we should. And we've got to be better. I think it starts with players. It shouldn't be on the head coach to kind of chew us out a little bit. We should take ownership of that. and feel that. I could kind of feel it's sort of like when he started yelling, I was like, oh, there it is. Like I almost expected it just because of the way it felt. And we as leaders have to not let it get that way.
I thought that last part was interesting, Willie. I kind of expected it from Peter Skoronski. He could feel the offense wasn't holding up its end of the bargain. So he thought it was only a matter of time before Brian Callahan addressed it the way he did.
I think we should also distinguish. It sounds to me like Brian Callahan was more upset at the execution of the entire offense, in particular the mistakes, rather than singling out Cam Ward.
Correct.
Is that fair to say?
Yes.
And Cam Ward has certainly got a big part in it. But it goes back to the expectations of this team and where they're coming from. That was the one thing that I thought was fair criticism of Brian Callahan, where I don't think he had the horses, D-Mace. And so I don't think he should have been expected. I think they did not do a good job of defining expectations last year. I think people thought they would be better. But the one fair criticism, I think, is that they did not play sharp. They had way too many pre-snap penalties. You can look at the numbers, and D-Mace, you brought them to our attention. They know they've got to get better in that. It's a huge emphasis of their training camp, and they're still making a lot of mistakes. That's not a good sign.
Yeah, in order to be a good team, you can't beat yourself. And Brian Callahan understands that. I think every coach in the league understands that. And that's why I said it must have been not just executing, because you're going to have days. Because, when we went out there last week, the days got better. And it seemed like they were executing. It wasn't as consistent as probably coach wanted it. But you saw Cam do some good things. You saw the offense do some good things. But when you're not executing and you are having these false starts and penalties that are putting you behind the chains, this offense isn't good enough to be in a 3rd and 15. This offense hasn't shown they're good enough to be in a 2nd and 15. They're just not. So how do you help yourself win football games? Well, don't be the most penalized team in the National Football League. You've averaged over the last 3 years, you've been in the top 10 of penalties over the last 3 years, probably even 4 years. So first and foremost, we got to cut that out because, again, we are not good enough as an offense right now to overcome penalties, especially holding penalties, pre-snap and post-snap penalties. I'm not saying they had any post-snaps in practice, but I'm sure there were some pre-snap things that were going on that sort of it got to a point where Brian Callahan was just pissed off.
615-737-1025. Our phone and text lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Your thoughts on the Titans offense struggling through 2 weeks of training camp practice, leading Brian Callahan to not mince words with his team after practice yesterday. 615-737-1025. Coming up next, there was a tweet that I saw today that I found to be interesting, and I want to ask the all-pro receiver to my right how true it is. 615-737-1025. This isn't just a concert, it's a cause. Trying Tix's Rock the Cradle helps give fragile newborns a stronger start and keeps moms close when it matters most. With Tim McGraw live on stage and your support behind every beat, Ascension St. Thomas is turning music into healing. Tickets are on sale now at rockthecradlenashville.org.
Derek Mason here, and if you injured yourself in a motorcycle accident, go to lawtigers.com for a free case evaluation. Even if your accident was months ago, you have nothing to lose by calling Law Tigers for a free case evaluation. Insurance companies want to pay out as little as possible or, frankly, nothing at all. Law Tigers make sure you get the compensation you deserve and doesn't get paid until your case has been settled. They understand how much your bike gear is worth to you, so they will help you get it all repaired and better yet, replace. Law Tigers is the resource the motorcycle community turns to when in need. So whether it's to support an event that you're in or to see you broken down on the side of the road, with Law Tigers, you'll never ride alone. So call 1-800-LAW-TIGERS or visit lawtigers.com. That's Law Tigers, which is powered by Freeman and Fusen, and you can find them in Nashville at 2126 21st Ave South. That's Law Tigers, Tennessee's motorcycle lawyers.
absolutely. I mean, we were 3-14 last year. So, I mean, any hint, sign, signature, or whatever it might be of what last year was that carries over, you know, anybody, not just Callahan, anybody on the team from anywhere, any corner is going to say something about it. Because, you know, in the warm-up today, you know, next to Jalen Duncan and the running backs coach, like, we were talking, like, we don't even want to think about last year. We don't even want to think about yesterday, whether we won, lost. Like, just get out here today and be better.
That was J.C. Latham after practice yesterday, a practice that did not go so well for the Tennessee Titans offense. I do want to read from Teron Davenport's practice report, and Teron Davenport of ESPN will join us at 4 o'clock. Quote, after finding the end zone twice during the first team offense's initial red zone team period, Brian Callahan's unit encountered some tough sledding. The defense tightened the reins, especially in the secondary, where they took away Cameron Ward's options by latching onto receivers. Ward tried to move around to buy time, but the pass rush was getting to him, forcing him to throw the ball away. Arden Key and Jalen Harrell registered would-be sacks on Ward and Brandon Allen. Safeties Amani Hooker and Xavier Woods both came close to interceptions by stepping in front of passes from Ward across the middle. Still, Ward escaped the dreary day without being intercepted. Callahan blew the whistle to end practice and expressed his frustration to the team before having them run. That was Teron Davenport's practice report from yesterday. And again, when you consider they have a rookie quarterback, what one analyst believes is the worst collection of playmakers in the NFL, perhaps this should be expected. But Derek, there was a tweet I saw today from Daniel Jeremiah, who works for NFL Network and the Move the Sticks podcast. And I want you to tell me how true this is. From Daniel Jeremiah, quote, preseason PSA, just about every defense is ahead of every offense at this point in training camp. True or false?
Not every defense. It depends on, you know, what offenses ran last year. If they got a new offensive coordinator, if they have a new quarterback, they may have some key players and some key roles within that offense, whether it be a center, left tackle. So it just depends on, you know, the team. I'm sure Kansas City or Cincinnati, they may have more good days than bad days. Why? Because their offense has been together. Those guys know that offense like they know the back of their hand. So they may approach practice a little bit different. But I think a lot of times, you know, defenses are ahead of everybody, because one thing I've noticed in the NFL, 10 guys on defense can do the right thing and one guy busts the coverage and get a sack, or he falls into an interception. That doesn't happen on the offensive side of the ball. You have 10 guys or 9 guys doing the right thing, and I'm saying minus the quarterback, but you have 9 guys doing the right thing, and there's one guy, the tackle, he blows it, or the guard, he goes left instead of going right, or the running back, he doesn't notice the blitz. That right there devastates your offense, no matter what. One blown play by an offense or by an individual on offense, more than likely it could be catastrophic. One blown play by a defensive player, one player, it may not be as catastrophic as you think, because they may end up falling into a play, a sack or interception, rather than not.
Willie, my question for you and Derek were at multiple practices last week with the Tennessee Titans, and I believe they have one more open practice here this week.
Wednesday morning
before they head to Tampa, Florida to practice with the Buccaneers. But a lot of interceptions thrown by Cam Ward in those practices. And of course, they get registered to him. He's the one that threw them, who threw them. But based on what you saw, this may be a difficult question to answer, but give it your best shot. How many of those interceptions would you place at Cam Ward's feet versus something else a receiver did or what have you?
I get where the question's going. Now, I didn't see the practice where they had the meltdown by Callahan, but he threw a fair amount when we were watching. I think the one thing that jumped out to D-Mace and I was that some of the interceptions were throws that I feel like he has made before and gotten away with, but A, they are throwing a lot at him, and B, he is changing his arm angle, and he's done that his whole life. He talked about it a lot last week. He said, I've been throwing sidearm throws since I was 4 years old. But there's got to be a learning curve, D-Mace, with figuring out, yeah, this is a weapon. I'm going to use my weapon. I'm going to come in. I'm going to do what I've always done. I got to keep that confidence and the swagger, but at the same time, understanding when those lanes are just not there. I thought that was some of the reason why some of those balls were intercepted.
Yeah, there's a fine line between arrogance and confidence in this sport. And quarterbacks especially, they tote that line. They tote it closer than anybody probably outside of a wide receiver, because they understand there's a sense of confidence that you have to give off to your team in order for them to believe you and trust you and know that you're going to get the job done. And with Cam, I'm hoping it's more so confidence than anything. He said he's not worried about, the side angle throws. He's done it all his career, all his life up until this point. And I understand that part. But it's not about changing your mechanics as a whole. It's about tweaking them a little bit. You got to understand that the things you were able to do that, at Incarnate Word, you were not able to do at Washington State. The things you were able to do at Washington State, you probably couldn't get away with at Miami, because the confidence, the competition gets a lot better. And it's the same thing with the NFL. If you're still so stuck on doing things the way you used to do, you're not going to evolve and develop as a player. I'm hoping for Cam, it's just the confidence factor. And eventually, it seems like, but eventually he will tweak his game enough to where it's not an overhaul, but he's tweaked his game enough to where now he's getting through the lines with some of these sidearm throws.
One thing I was curious about, Willie, this morning, Cam Ward was not a turnover machine for the Miami Hurricanes. He threw 7 interceptions all season with Miami last season. Now, Pro Football Focus has a fancy stat called turnover-worthy plays. And that is a pass that has a high percentage chance to be intercepted or a poor job of taking care of the ball and fumbling. What I love about PFF is that they have their premium stats for the college ranks, not just for the NFL. Last year, there were 40 quarterbacks in college football who had at least 400 dropbacks. Cam Ward, his turnover-worthy play percentage was 3.2%, which was tied for 21st out of 40. So right in the middle. So I absolutely understand what Derek is saying, that college game, pro game, 2 totally different things. But he wasn't turnover prone in college, at least last year.
I'm still willing to ride out this section of the preseason and write it off as he's got to learn. And I would rather have them try to make him look bad. I don't know about try to make him look bad, but throw a lot at him now and have some growing pains, as opposed to let's make sure he goes 9 for 10 so that the statisticians, the amateur statisticians who don't even keep yardage right on the sideline, we're writing down the markers on our notebooks, right? Oh, he's 6 for 7 today. If that was the goal, then he should look better. But the goal, I think, is to have him learn what the defenses are going to throw at him as fast as possible. A lot of the assistants have weighed in on this because, as you can imagine, a lot of the questions at the press conferences are directed towards this subject. How is Cam coming along? So he is under the microscope for sure. So I'll just put it this way. My biggest observation, it's not a worry or anything, but as I continue to look at him as the number 1 pick in the draft and what they passed on in order to take him, I'm still looking for just the flashes and the freakish talent that you want to see from the first overall pick. And I was hoping to see a little bit more. I think I could live with some of the mistakes and the sloppy looking plays if I were to see a few more wow plays. And I haven't seen that many wow plays. And I've been to 3 practices. I've seen a couple. I've seen a few where I was like, man, that was a heck of a throw that not a lot of people can make. But I'm not wowed by his talent right now. Everybody's saying that his makeup, how he's handling this, his work ethic, he's off the charts with that. And that should serve him well. But as a talent, I'm still waiting to see if I'm blown away by first overall pick kind of stuff.
Well, a lot of these things, we talked about, how practice has become sort of game for fans because, they are putting up these, at least at the Titans practice, they have this big screen so you can see the play. If you can't see the field and you look up and see the play, they got the music playing. They got all this stuff going on that sort of resembles an actual football game. So with that, you're having, columnists or journalists or people that is covering the team. Oh, well, Cam was 7 for 11 today. He was 5 for 10. He was 4 for 13. Coaches don't keep that. They don't look at that type of information. That's not what they're looking for. They are looking at, is the play ran the way we're supposed to run it? We may not always get a completion. The guy may drop the ball. There may be a tip ball here and there. But if I look at the offense and I drew it up like this on the board, is it running that same way? Are we getting to the line of scrimmage? Is everybody where they're supposed to be when they're supposed to be there? The offensive line, are they doing their job? That's the way coaches and players look at it. But now we've gotten to this point where Cam, he misfired on, 6 of 15 throws today or 6 of 20 throws today, and he has 2 interceptions. Well, that's telling part of the story, but it's not telling the whole story. And then when the coaches go back and they look at the film, they're not necessarily looking at it from a incompletion standpoint. They're looking at it, making sure everybody is doing what they're supposed to do. And Cam, do you understand why you threw that pass? Yes, I understood it. Okay, now we can move on. It's not about eventually it will be about, because you want to complete passes. But right now, Cam's new to this offense. I know he took over basically in minicamp, but it's new to him now. He's going to have moments where he's completing more passes than not, and then he's going to have moments where he's not. But when I go back and watch the film, are you going through your progressions the way I want you to go through? The offensive line, are you picking up, the defensive scheme the way you need to? Receivers, are you reading it right? If that is progressing and that is developing, I'm good with that.
615-737-1025. Our phone and text lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We will continue to take your reaction on Cam Ward and the Titans offense. Coming up next, some interesting comments from Brian Callahan to ESPN's Jeremy Fowler. Fowler went on a training camp tour. He made a pit stop in our fair city. We'll read some of those and react coming up next at 615-737-1025. Willie Darnick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025-1063. The Game. 1025 The Game and Souls for Souls have teamed up for a back-to-school fundraiser, Souls for the 615, to provide new shoes for kids experiencing homelessness in Nashville. Help a child in Middle Tennessee step into the new school year with confidence by donating $20 for a new pair of athletic shoes. For more information and to donate, visit thegamenashville.com/shoes. Souls for the 615 is sponsored by Macero and 12 South. Go check them out for handcrafted cocktails, bold plates, great happy hour, and elevated hospitality. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. So ESPN's Jeremy Fowler went on a tour of the NFL, attended 16 different teams' training camps. And let me tell you something, as a former beat reporter, there was nothing that annoyed me more than when the big wig, the big columnist, the national guy showed up in town and he got to sit down in the office with the coach or the GM. Where's my sit down? But that's what happens when you work for ESPN. So Jeremy Fowler, he came to Nashville, attended training camp, sat down with Brian Callahan. A lot of interesting information in here. We're going to dig into it over the course of the week. But here was a quote from Brian Callahan about Cam Ward that I want to discuss. It starts with Jeremy Fowler writing, and he, meaning Callahan, knows a young quarterback can galvanize a team and elevate the play around him. Callahan has seen it with Joe Burrow in Cincinnati, and he pays attention league-wide. Here's the quote from Callahan. You don't want to put wins and losses on a rookie quarterback, but obviously we want to win football games. When you look back at success or failure of a rookie year, you look at Jaden Daniels last year and say that was a success. You look at Caleb Williams and say that probably wasn't, but it's all based on record. Well, Caleb did a lot of good things, just like Jaden did. The teams are different. It's hard to compare these guys, but you see the standards of what it's supposed to look like. And I do think that is an important thing to point out, that Cam Ward's success for a lot of people, specifically people who do not live in Nashville and who do not watch the Titans on a weekly basis, a lot of their opinions of Cam Ward are going to be based solely on the Titans record. The Titans are 4-13. Cam Ward must not be very good, but I think Callahan makes a good point there. Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, statistically, they weren't that far apart last year. Jaden Daniels did something few rookies have done in NFL history and took a team to the conference championship game, while Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears, they struggled. And that's why I've seen so much Caleb Williams stuff on talking head shows.
Right.
We're going to know by October if he's a bust. Is this a huge year for Caleb Williams? They're not having those conversations about Jaden Daniels because Jaden Daniels won last year. But I do think that's an important distinction from Brian Callahan.
We touched on the Caleb Williams thing last week, where they had the failures of last year, where they were canning some of the coaches in the middle of the season. And now they brought in the guy that's the offensive guru that is supposed to fix everything. And we were talking about, I'm going to mesh two stories in together of what your theme is, Adam. Caleb Williams is struggling, and this is his second year. He doesn't look good in practice. Plus, the national reporter, Albert Breer, was in Chicago on the day that he really struggled. And so he was trying to get the right perspective of that. So I think it goes to my biggest theme of, why is Cam Ward struggling? It's the beginning of camp. There's a lot of quarterbacks doing that. I just wonder about, nobody questions the freakish talent of Caleb Williams and the freakish talent of Jaden Daniels. What I'm waiting to see is, does Cam Ward have comparable talent when push comes to shove? I don't think he's going to make it or not make it based on his work ethic. I think everything that you hear about his makeup as leadership skills, as getting there at 4:30 in the morning, whatever time he is, doesn't sleep in much. I think that's legit. He's not going to make it because he doesn't work hard enough, but he's got to make it because he's good enough.
If Cam Ward turns out to be somewhere in the first year between Drake May and Bo Nix, I think the Titans will take it. I think we look at these quarterbacks, and first, it's hard to compare all these quarterbacks and how their first year sort of goes off because every team is different. The way we talk about Jaden Daniels, we would have thought he just tore up the scene, like he was the best quarterback in the National Football League. But he wasn't that far better than Bo Nix. He wasn't that far, better than Caleb Williams if you're talking about numbers. Not even Drake May. It's the team and the makeup around him. Some quarterbacks, because of the personnel around them, some, even though their team may have picked them high, they go into situations a lot better than some quarterbacks that are picked high. For instance, Bo Nix went into a better situation with the head coach who had won a Super Bowl, who was considered, Sean Payton, considered one of the greatest head coaches in the National Football League, or at least one of the best at that present time. So he walked into a situation with a defense that was top notch. So he didn't have to, they didn't put a lot on his shoulders. You look at his numbers, and they are really good numbers, but we don't talk about him the way we talk about Daniels. Why? Because it looked different. All these quarterbacks, if Cam can come in and say, do what Caleb Williams did this past season and win some games, I'm good with that. People just see, especially when it comes to Caleb Williams, if you look at the numbers, he had some good numbers across the board for a rookie quarterback on a bad team. I think that's what Cam Ward is going to end up being this season. The Titans version of Caleb Williams, because the talent isn't there just yet.
Let's just hope that Cam Ward isn't sacked anywhere near as much as Caleb Williams.
But I'm saying the talent.
I know
they don't have the talent across the board, because even if Cam Ward plays well, the other guys around him have to elevate their game.
And Willie, it's not like the Titans were blind to these things when they scouted and ultimately drafted Cam Ward. They knew that he wasn't on par with other recent number 1 overall pick quarterbacks like Joe Burrow or Trevor Lawrence or Caleb Williams. They knew that. He's not a perfect prospect, but clearly they see something in him that, with the right coaching, and people will certainly argue about whether Brian Callahan constitutes the right coaching, but they knew that this was going to be a work in progress.
And they've hitched their wagon to him, for better or worse. Everything is riding on him based on the decision they made to pick him and not take the extra picks. That is going to be a running theme that I know D-Bates and I disagree on, but I hope he proves me wrong. But I think there's added pressure that hopefully he won't feel. Hopefully he is bigger than all of that. But there will be a pressure from the public, the media, etc., because they're well aware that they could have traded down to number 3, rode out the quarterback situation for another year, and accumulated the type of assets that this roster desperately needs. But that's why I'm really curious. The day-to-day stuff, the further we're removed from it, like, it's a new week coming up. They got a chance to take a deep breath here. We're going to go to another phase of the training camp. They're going to play practices against Tampa Bay. Hopefully he'll start to do better. They're still weeks away from him playing a game. But I think it's more of the big picture thing that I'm wondering. I want to see the flash, like the wow factor from him, come out in these next few weeks.
Let's go to Dylan on our phone line, driven by Wilson County Hyundai.com. Dylan, thank you for calling. Please go ahead.
Hey, guys, I just wanted to get your thoughts on if you think the Titans should pursue Micah Parsons, because you just talked about Bo Nix having an excellent defense and the weight being off of his shoulder. Well, I believe if you add Micah Parsons, then you have T. Sweat, Jeffrey Simmons, and Micah Parsons on that defense. That helps the corners. That helps the offense. I feel like that'd be great for the development. And I know that the front office has said, we want to collect picks and stuff. But the whole point of a pick is to hopefully get a guy that's good. Well, why not just trade those picks for a guy is a surefire thing? He's the first player since sacks have been recorded that he's had 12-plus sacks each of his first 4 seasons. So I was just wanting to get your guys' thoughts on that and see where you go from there.
Thank you, Dylan.
I mean, I think in theory, the Titans would love to have Micah Parsons and to team him up with Jeffrey Simmons and T'Vondre Sweat in that defense. Who wouldn't want that? But the problem is that when you get him, you're mortgaging, you're basically giving up your future. And I get it, but you got to understand, he's not a quarterback. If this team was one player, two players away, then okay, you go out and mortgage it, get Michael Parsons, and more than likely you're gonna find yourself in a playoff, and you may just go on a run and end up in a Super Bowl. But this team is about 10 players away, maybe even more than that, from reaching that goal. And the only way you're going to be able to attain those players is through the draft. Borgonzi and Brinker has already said it. It's drafting, developing, and retaining players. I don't know how long they're going to stick to that philosophy, but they're sticking to it now. And as good as Michael Parsons is, he may just single-handedly be the best or one of the best players all around in the National Football League. But this team is not a Michael Parsons away from winning a championship.
Yeah, as
They
great as he
are
is.
they are another wide receiver, another offensive lineman, some more defensive players, some more backup players. That's how many players they are from winning, I believe, from winning a championship. So it sounds great going out and get Michael Parsons, but you're going to have to give up a whole lot to get him.
So basically,
capital you don't have. It's
Yeah,
capital you don't-
exactly.
and you have to sign him to the richest
A contract,
that any defensive player will have ever signed. That's
Mhm.
what it's going to end up. That's what he's looking for, and he probably deserves it. He's 26, so he can't make that much of a difference for that type of price. If he were a free agent,
Mhm.
that would be different. But we're talking about probably multiple first-round picks.
Mhm.
And maybe you'd have that thought if you'd have traded the pick last year. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. Here we go again.
quickly, I believe it was Adam Schefter who tweeted the Khalil Mack trade as a comparison, and that was multiple first-round picks. The Bears gave up 2 first-round picks, a third-round pick, and a sixth-round pick for Mack, a second-round pick, and a conditional fifth-round pick. So that's probably what you're looking at as a starting point in a trade for Michael
And Jerry
Parsons.
Jones, does he even want to
Nah,
trade him?
no,
I
he
think
ain't
at the end of the day,
trading him.
he'll probably
He's going to
sign.
sign him to a
Yeah.
deal.
615-737-1025. Teron Davenport, ESPN, NFL Nation, Titans reporter, will join us coming up next. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025, 1063, The Game. D. Mace, Fingan, and Donick, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you, joined on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, by ESPN, NFL Nation, Titans reporter, Teron Davenport. Hello, Teron. How are you?
Hey, how's it going?
It is going well, and as I understand it, starting tomorrow, every Tuesday, you will be joining Jake Lyman on Next Man Up from 9 to noon. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, the new show, and I'll be a part of it. Looking forward to it. He and Paul Kaharski did a great job this morning, so we'll just carry the torch.
So, Teron, of course, you were at practice yesterday. I know that you are prohibited from giving specifics, but it has been reported that Brian Callahan had some harsh words for his offense yesterday. Could you see this outburst, for lack of a better word, from Callahan coming based on how the offense has performed so far in training camp?
Yeah, and especially that day in particular. He has spoken before practice and talked about how excited he was to see them get back into some red zone stuff. They started off well, but it really was a matter of nothing being available for them in the secondary as far as the DBs locking stuff down. And then you also look at the guys up front. They were getting pressure, and they just couldn't really do anything on offense. It was bad.
I was going to ask you, what specifically has concerned the Titans offensive coaching staff about the performance of the unit in the padded practices?
Well, it's a mixture of things. And I think the biggest thing is just the inefficiency. That's something that they hate to have. And I mean, you know, some of the situations they were in, like back against the wall, you know, they're backed up and they got to dig out of it, and they weren't able to do it. So, I mean, it's a mixture of all things. There isn't just one particular one. There's different areas where they're failing.
Teron, a couple of weeks ago, you warned us before training camp started that people are going to overreact to Cam Ward's interceptions and Cam Ward's touchdowns. And Cam Ward has thrown plenty of picks. He's had some balls that probably should have been intercepted that weren't. So I'm going to introduce the Chicken Little scale here for you. On a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being the sky is falling, because that's what Chicken Little used to say. Where are you on Cam Ward and his performance through the first couple of weeks of training camp?
I would say a 2. I haven't seen enough to where I would tell fans to be overly concerned. And I haven't seen enough to where it's like, okay, you know what? AFC South Championship. It's neither of them. And this is something I always say, you know, when you get practice, you got to understand, like, it's a time where you're trying things out. It's a time where you're seeing what you could do, even for a veteran. But this guy's a rookie. He's still figuring out how the DBs read, how the linebackers diagnose. Like, all these things are still things he's getting used to. So I'm not making excuses, because he has to play better, and he'll tell you that. But what I am saying is this is still a process for him. It's early in the process, and there's more that he's going to learn. That he's going to get better at some point, and not to get too worried.
Now, Teron, do you think it's more so of is he picking? Do you think he's picking up the offense the way Callahan wants him to? I know they, you know, whether it be just the mood of practice or things are not sort of going the way they want it to go schematically, and there may be some hits and misses here and there. But do you think Callahan is satisfied with what Cam is learning and how he's learning it?
Yeah, I think he's fully satisfied with how Cam is picking up the offense. I don't think that's an issue. I think it's more the execution part of it. And it's not always on him, right? And that's something that Nick Holtz told me when I asked him about the interceptions and each of them having their own story. And he said, man, it's not always on the quarterback. And he's 100% right. I mean, you look at the Chig Okonkwo interception. Chig didn't read hot, and, you know, Cam threw the ball and Woods picked it off. And it's just something that happened.
Now, how do you the running back position? I'm starting to hear a lot of buzz about Tyjae Spears now. Obviously, for Tyjae, he's going into his third year and he wants to be more the focal, more focal point of running a football or just being out there. What are you seeing from him early on?
It's just juice, man, and energy, and the way he hits the holes is really good. Like, I mean, he hits those things, and you see him explode through, and it's just almost sideswipe somebody there. Sorry about that. You see him just be able to accelerate away from the defense. You know what I mean? And that's something that you want to see. He finishes every run by running all the way to the end zone. So you have that too. It's just, there's a vibe that's coming off of him that I think is really good.
Now, we know Jeffrey Simmons looks like a different player out there. It's noticeable, not just the weight loss. I think the way he's moving, he seems like he's back to 2 years ago, Jeffrey Simmons. What do you see from the defense as a whole?
You know, they're working a lot more. Like, you could see the coordination as far as the pass rush is concerned. And it's interesting because talking to Arden Key, talking to Femi Oladejo and Draymond Jones and those guys, they're making a conscious effort not to overrun the pocket. So in other words, they're trying to not go beyond 7 yards deep. You know what I mean? And then they're cornering right after that 7 yards. And that's something that, you know, you didn't see as much before. And if you look at last year, a lot of the runs, right, it came when the quarterback stepped up and slid to either side and found an escape lane. That's how the quarterback runs happen. So they're working together. And you actually see that push coming from the interior, right, with Jeffrey Simmons and some of the other guys. And then the other thing is, you know, they're realizing, hey, if the journey's over, get your hands up. And that's leading to something that people are finding an issue with Cameron Ward with it, and that's the tip pass.
We're talking to Teron Davenport, covering the Tennessee Titans, ESPN.com, and, of course, a big member of our family here on 102.5 The Game. So, TD, let's take it a little step further. I listened to Denard Wilson's press conference, his most recent one, and he was talking about some of the nuances that he's working with. He's got some of the new guys. He doesn't have all of his guys yet. We know T'Vondre Sweat hasn't practiced the last few days. We still haven't seen Snead. Let's start with Snead, because I did hear him with somewhat conviction say he's our starter, right? So he appears to envision that Snead will be there when it counts.
Yeah, and that question was posed to him with the understanding that he's coming back, right? So when he comes back, yes, he's the starter. So you do have that, and I think you have Snead out there, a guy that plays like that, it helps everything because his coverage is sticky and he's very aggressive at the line of scrimmage. It buys extra time.
How concerned are you? Because one of the biggest question marks that this team has, and there's plenty of them, but this is among the top ones, is can they get pressure off of the edge? I've heard him talk about what he's seeing from Oladejo, and then there's a couple of other new guys that are in this mix. But do you like what you see so far beyond the scheme, but just in terms of some, because you got to have some of the horses, right? They need to find some guys who are good fits.
Well, that's the big problem is they don't necessarily have any premier pass rushers. Nobody on the roster has a double-digit sack. So you have that. But I think you mentioned not including the scheme, but I think the scheme itself is what's going to do it for them as far as the different blitzes and things that they're doing in order to, throw a lot at the quarterback. So for me, it's more just everything being coordinated and together. Brian Callahan, Denard Wilson, they both talked about crushing the pocket from the interior. So that places a big emphasis on Jeffrey Simmons. When they have him there, you're seeing Arden Key line up in there like he did before, just to kind of give a different look at length and speed as opposed to the brute strength of a guy like T'Vondre Sweat.
TD, this is one thing I thought of. I was listening to all the offensive assistants over the weekend, from Bill Callahan to the quarterback's coach to the offensive coordinator. They all were talking about, because you've got Denard Wilson installing his defense, which is, as we know, complex. It's about deception. It's about scheming your way into a pass rush, and what effect that's having on practice for Cam Ward, as opposed to, say, back up a cover two, something a little simpler, which still can be effective. But at this stage of the learning curve for Cam Ward, what effect do you think that's having? Because it does seem like they all believe that's contributing to a lot of plays that look kind of ugly.
Yeah, I mean, he's getting a lot of looks. They're mixing stuff up in the secondary. Amani Hooker talked about the styles and things. And then on top of that, they're blitzing. And look, that's what you're going to see. That's what you do to a rookie quarterback, right? You try to confuse him with different coverages and mixing stuff up before and after the snap. And then you want to get after him, right? You want to pressure him. So it's only right that he sees it now. He's going to see it later this week in Tampa from Todd Bowles. And guess what? It's not going to get any easier in Atlanta as far as Raheem Morris and the scheme. They don't necessarily have the players, but James Pierce, from what I understand, is having a really good camp. And then you look even further, Minnesota and Brian Flores, and you know what he does. That's blitzkrieg all day. So he's going to bring all of Minneapolis with him and send that at Cam Ward on week 3 if Cam plays.
Well, let's go back to Tampa, because that's what everybody is going to be looking at this week. How different is Tampa's defense than the one that Cam Ward has been seeing to this point in camp? What is unique about it?
Well, I think it's a little more aggressive. They work a lot more cover 2, and that's interesting because they got that Tampa 2 that they work, and that means the linebackers carrying the seams and the routes down the middle, and that's an area where a lot of Ward's interceptions have happened. So I'm curious how that's going to work. I think it's similar in that, one of their best pass rushers is a guy in the middle, right, in Vita Vea, and they will bounce him outside sometimes. I remember the last time they played, they were taking turns going against Dillard and Petit Ferrer, right? Just, hey, it's your turn, go get the sack. And now you get one. It was like Oprah, you get one and you get one and you get one.
That game didn't go very well.
No, not at all. So I think they're similar, in that sense. So it'll be a good experience for them to see.
Teron, let's focus on the other side of the ball for those joint practices with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What should the Tennessee Titans defense expect from the Buccaneers offense? Baker Mayfield, who had sat out of some training camp practices with a sore right throwing hand, he is expected to be back. Of course, there's Mike Evans, but what sort of looks are you expecting the Buccaneers offense to give the Titans defense later this week?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really good test for the secondary. Obviously, with Mike Evans, who is one of the best kept secrets in the league. He's a future Hall of Famer, and he doesn't even get any talk when you're looking at guys, in the best of the league. But then you look at Emeka, I almost said Emeka Okafor. Emeka Egbuka out of Ohio State, he's apparently having a good camp. So, you're going to see a lot of that. Guys that get a chance to, understand and a refresher on how it is. You got to play to the whistle because, like Cameron Ward, Baker Mayfield's going to try to extend the play, right? And he's going to try to make something happen.
I will forgive you for bringing up Emeka Okafor. Not a fan of his when he played at UConn. Not a fan of UConn in general. So I will forgive you for bringing up Emeka Okafor.
That team smashed both Duke and Vanderbilt in the 2004 NCAA tournament.
Yes.
Smashed everybody.
I know, Teron, that the Titans did not have media access today. What do you believe Cam Ward's workload is going to be in the preseason game this coming weekend against the Buccaneers?
Yeah, that's something. He's definitely going to play. That's for sure. But as far as the workload is concerned, from what I understand, it's not something that they have a definitive decision on yet, but they're still working through it. And then on top of that, they also are going to, see how things go during the game, I would imagine. But from what I understand, whatever happens this week at the practice on Thursday, that's not going to dictate how much he does or doesn't play.
Teron Davenport, ESPN, NFL Nation, Titans reporter, joining us on D. Mace, Vingen, and Donick. You can catch Teron with Jake Lyman on Next Man Up tomorrow from 9 to noon. Teron, great stuff as always, my friend. We'll listen to you tomorrow morning, and we'll talk next week.
All right, for sure. Appreciate you guys.
Of course. Teron Davenport on the program. Jared from Spring Hill on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, says, I anticipate going down to Tampa, the Titans will get punked and exposed. Outside of stat lines, what are signs that aren't in the stat book that would make you feel good if and when they go down to Tampa and get punked?
I just got to see them because, and I'm speaking for myself. I was a little concerned about the lack of energy. I was a little concerned about it just didn't seem like it was that they were missing something in practice. And obviously now you look at it, Callahan going off, it probably was a build up to all that. But I want to see them go down to Tampa and compete. Because it's the first time they get an opportunity because this is a new team, meaning the Titans got a new quarterback, a bunch of new players on offense and defense. I want to see how they go and compete against somebody else. Because typically when you do these type of practices right before a special teams, right before a preseason game, the game is really the practice. And then once you go into the game, they tend to pull certain players out or whatnot. Hopefully they don't do that to Cam, but you want to try to maximize the opportunity that you have to play against another team. So my thing is I want to see them come out. And again, I would like for Cam to be 10 for 10 or 11 for 11, but realistically, it's not going to go that way. We just need to hear he's developing, he's getting better each and every practice heading into the preseason game. If we start to hear some more of what we've heard this week, as far as the tempo and balls getting batted down and the offense just, because we went through this a few years ago. The Titans offense went out there and the defense and just pretty much stunk up the joint. And their season was indicative of that. So I want to see them, whether it be Tampa or Atlanta, that we're not saying those same things that we said 2 or 3 years ago about the Titans heading into their first preseason game.
As far as the getting punked, let's recall there was one of these in Nashville at the Titans complex, Ryan Tannehill's first year, and it was against New England.
Yeah.
And Ryan Tannehill, I have to go back and find, because Jim Wyatt was the one who always keeps the complete. I think Ryan Tannehill was like 2 for 17 or something over the 2 days. And everybody was like, oh, man, he doesn't look good. Marcus Mariota's job is safe. And we know how it turned out later in that series. So whether it looks ugly or not, my answer to your question, Adam, is I want to see an identity form. This is what he's been working towards. He knows his team is going to go away for a while, right? They're going to Tampa, and essentially they're not coming home, right? They're going straight to Atlanta, and they're going to sort of set up camp away from Nashville. I want to see a team that really had no identity. Like, if I ask you, Derek, what's this team's identity? Does anything pop into your head?
Nope.
Not based off of last year.
No.
And now you have Cam Ward coming in, and I'm not sure what identity they're actually shooting for, but I want to see one start to take shape, I think, after these 2 preseason games.
Well, I mean, they'll tell you the identity, fast, physical, play smart.
Right, but that's
all this
everybody,
other stuff.
right?
Yeah, that's everybody. But I want to see you put it into play. I'm a visual person, so I got to see it. All these things that you talked about, these games that you played in the off season to make sort of the building competitive. Here's your chance to show it all now, because you are competing against somebody else. It's not your team anymore. You're competing against someone else. So I want to see all those things that you talked about and you preached, and it was great. But now we got to see those things sort of show when you're practicing against somebody else other than your own team.
615-737-1025. We will continue the conversation about Cam Ward coming up next, because when your team has a young quarterback, there is always a conversation that is going to surround that quarterback. And quite frankly, there is no true answer to this question, but perhaps we will attempt to find one. Coming up next, 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. D. Mace Vingan and Donick 1025, 1063 the game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. So, gentlemen, Shakespeare was not my strong suit in school. I relied heavily on Spark Notes.
You saying it like it was ours?
Well, was it?
No,
Didn't you live in that age? I was an English minor.
but with
At Vanderbilt,
Shakespeare,
I did
Your
take a
jam.
class on Shakespeare.
I had to
I'm
rely.
not sure I was a good move. I taking that class, but I did get through it.
okay,
I had to rely on what was called No Fear Shakespeare. So on one page was the Shakespearean language.
hmm
On the other page was a modern translation.
Oh wow!
So
Where were you in 1992 when I had this class? I had the professor at Vanderbilt that looked the part. Right, he looked like he was right out of Shakespeare. He had the accent and everything, and man, he was all in on that. I needed this translator.
where was I in 1992?
Yeah.
Potty training.
figured he was in diapers.
I was past diapers, hopefully. But now I may be getting this wrong, but I believe it was Hamlet, as written by William Shakespeare, who said, "To sit or not to sit young quarterbacks." That
I take it.
is the question, because now that Cam Ward is here and we're reading about his struggles in training camp, it has ignited this conversation. Should Cam Ward start week 1 against the Denver Broncos, or would he and the Titans be better off letting him sit on the bench for however long?
Okay, so first of all, do we think there's any chance that they will actually do this?
No. I don't.
I tend to agree. There's no indication that they're even pondering this.
No.
And it is something I'm sure we'll come back to if he continues to struggle. Like, hey, you don't have to start him, right? If he's really not ready. But I think in the backdrop are these, this history we're going to show you.
So every side of this debate, whether you are pro young quarterback sitting and waiting or pro young quarterback getting out there and play, you can cherry pick different quarterbacks. So if you are a pro sitting and waiting, Tom Brady did not play immediately. He's the greatest quarterback of all time. Patrick Mahomes did not play immediately. He is right on Tom Brady's heels, at least in terms of Super Bowl championships. So
Joe Montana
Right.
didn't start right away.
you know who else did not immediately start? Daniel Jones. Did that work out for Daniel Jones?
Mm-mm.
He's in the quarterback battle with Anthony Richardson. The Colts unofficial depth chart at quarterback said today, Daniel Jones or Anthony Richardson Sr. So he could still be a starting quarterback in the NFL. And then if you were on the side of, hey, let them play. Look at Jaden Daniels. We talked about Jaden Daniels earlier. Jaden Daniels had an outstanding rookie season. Took the Commanders to the NFC title game. So depending on which side of the fence you sit, there are plenty of examples that you can pull from to make your argument.
We keep bringing up Jaden Daniels. Why? Because his team went to the playoffs and went to the NFC Championship game. But that doesn't mean that, had he sat, it still wouldn't have happened. You look at all these quarterbacks, whether it was Caleb Williams, he had success within a bad season. I think they may have, if we can shore up the offensive line, we can do some things, the season may be a little bit better as a whole for our team. But, you look at Bo Nix, he was thrown in the fire right away. He did a good job. You go back to last year, whether it was CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, guys like that, it was sort of a mixed bag with those guys. Anthony Richardson, he ended up getting hurt his rookie season. So today's football, and this is going to always be, no matter what happens, good or bad with a quarterback, this will always be the essential question. Should we start a quarterback now or later? Should we start our rookie quarterback now or should we start him later? You're going to get some people that end up doing well based upon the structure of the organization. Then you're going to end up having guys that, are not doing so well based upon the structure of the organization. This is not yesteryear's football. These guys when they get drafted in the first round, more importantly, they are a top 10 pick. Unless you have a Joe Flacco or a Alex Smith, guys like that have proven that they can win ball games. Unless you have a guy like that already your starter, he may be long in the tooth, a little bit. You are starting right now as a rookie quarterback because they don't have time to wait and sit you for 2 years, because then after that, they got to determine in 3 years whether to pay you or not. And it's really 2.
I stumbled across a lot of articles written about this subject as I did my research for the show. But I landed on an article that was written by Ben Standig, formerly of The Athletic. He covered the Washington Commanders. He wrote a story last September about this subject, of course, leading with Jaden Daniels, who was about to start his rookie season with the Commanders. And Willie, this is how I knew that this was the article for us. Your boy, Aaron Schatz, was quoted in this article. Standing writes, quote, analytics guru and defensive adjusted value over average, or DVOA, creator Aaron Schatz has studied the options. Every research project we've done on this has ended with this answer: I don't know. And I know that's a phrase that's forbidden sometimes when we're talking about sports or anything in life. It's taboo sometimes to say, I don't know. But Aaron Schatz, every research project we've done on this has ended with this answer: I don't know. He later said the typical norm for a rookie quarterback is to be below average, even for a top pick or one who eventually turns out to be good. And Willie, here's where you can take over. Standig did the research. Again, remember, this article was written before last season. He writes, quote, defining franchise quarterback is nebulous and from a debate conversation perspective, often exhausting. Since finding a player who will be under center for years beyond his rookie contract is the primary goal, exploring the paths for those first-round picks who did or didn't receive a contract extension might be illuminating. The list, pulled from True Media, begins in 2000, but includes neither the 3 quarterbacks selected in 2023 nor the 6 quarterbacks drafted in 2024. What were the findings from Standig that stood out to you?
So that's one thing we have to remember is it's too early to know how guys like Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson, if they are going to earn a second contract. There are 59 that have been drafted in the first round since 2000. So if my math is correct, 33 of the 59, so just over half, ended up signing the second contract with the team that drafted them. So in other words, Baker Mayfield didn't sign a second contract with the team that drafted him. He moved on from the Browns. Marcus Mariota didn't sign a second contract with the Titans. But 33 have. Guys like Trevor Lawrence, who recently signed his next big deal. Is he going to live up to it? That's what time will tell. Tua famously signed the big money, and now with his injury, concussion stuff, we wonder if he's going to be worth it. So those are examples on both sides. But then he broke down, Aaron Schatz did, in the I don't know. He at least tried to figure out, let's just go with who signed a second contract with their team, because that's at least some measure of success that we can document. Whether you think, because how many times do we debate on this show, so-and-so is a franchise quarterback. Well, no, he's not. He's not a franchise quarterback. This guy's a franchise quarterback. So take that aside and just go with who signed the next contract. If we think Cam Ward is going to be a week 1 starter, we do, right? Here is the success record. There are 22 out of the 59. 22 out of 59 teams decided he's our week 1 guy. How many do you think got a second contract with that team?
Half of them?
Less than half.
It is less than half. 8 of 22. Joe Flacco is one of them.
Yeah.
Who was the day 1 starter. Now, that is an interesting one because that was a completely different situation than Cam Ward going into this team, where he was the first pick. You're coming off a mess of a season, whereas the Ravens have always run a good program, right? They haven't had runs of bad success. Flacco was what, a mid to late
He was
first-round
a
pick?
mid-round pick.
But there was
First-round
a
pick.
really good support system for him in place. So that's an interesting. But Flacco's one. Joe Burrow is one. And Burrow, we know, it didn't happen overnight. He got hurt, and they were bad his first year. Trevor Lawrence, Andrew Luck,
Kyler Murray.
Cam Newton, Matt Ryan, Matthew Stafford. So 8 of the 22 that were opening day starters their rookie year signed a second contract with their same team.
Either you're going to sign a second contract because the team is doing well and you just so happen to be the quarterback, or if you elevate your team as a rookie quarterback. And that's in turn how you're going to get a second contract. We have to be careful with these quarterbacks and saying, well, we need them to start right now, or we need them to sit. Because I can give you examples where, you look at Mark Sanchez, 2 years, they went to back-to-back AFC championship games. And everybody thought Mark Sanchez was the bee's knees. He wasn't developing as a quarterback. He wasn't. He was just surrounded by a excellent defense and a hell of a running game. And he had 2 hell of a receivers in Plaxico and I forget the other kid out of Ohio State. So they were pretty good receivers. But him as a quarterback, he never did develop within what they were trying to teach him. They just had a hell of a defense and some good players.
Mm-hmm.
He was a guy.
So there are contributing factors on whether a guy has early success
exactly.
or not.
So when you look at
but the bottom line is, do you get there over? It basically takes 4 years, right? Because
that's why you need to play. That's why you need to play now. That's why these GMs and these coaches, they're like, listen. One, it's because typically when you're drafting first overall, what happens? You may not have your job the next year. So you may not be able to, you ain't got time to be sitting and letting this quarterback play second fiddle to somebody else that ain't going to win your games. If I am going to lose my job, it's going to be with the guy that I drafted. And I'm going to try to develop him so that he's going to win enough games. And the owner's going to see that he's developed enough that they will keep me as their head coach. So a lot hinges on whether, one, the team around them is good, but you have to put that guy out there. If he shows you anything, you got to put him out there because the clock starts now. You don't have time to sit and wait because coaches will tell you, he's sitting and waiting. I ain't gonna be able to coach him because I ain't gonna be here the next year.
Quickly, before we head to break, here was another interesting statistic from Ben Standig in this article. Starting debut after drafted season. Of the 10 rookies,
I was going to bring that up because this is going to counter your argument, D-Mace.
Of this 10 rookies who made their starting debut after their drafted season, 6 received a second consecutive contract.
6 for 10.
6 for 10. Dante Culpepper, Jordan Love, Carson Palmer, Chad Pennington, Phillip Rivers, and Aaron Rodgers.
So all those quarterbacks sat for a year.
But here's the kicker.
Did not start.
To Derek's point, young quarterback sitting is becoming a relic of a bygone era. Of those 10 quarterbacks, only Jordan Love was drafted after 2011. It just doesn't happen anymore.
They're not doing anything.
It just doesn't happen anymore.
But I think that brings up a good question: are we making a mistake here? Like, is what everybody's doing? Because you're giving the conventional thought, right? That everybody seems to have. Let's throw them in there. We got to play our way through it. Brian Callahan's been on the record saying you got to play your way through it. I'd rather have him start playing. But these numbers would suggest at least that historically, it may not be the best. 8 for 22 as opposed to 6 for 10.
Well, the onus is put back on the developer, which is the head coach / offensive coordinator. We expect you. The job entails now, because this league has become so offensive centric. It's pathetic, and I love it. I know defensive players hate it, but your job is more important than it's ever been, because everything, when you have a rookie coach, everything rides on him. So you better get him developed, and you can't get him developed, then we're moving on from you because we don't have time to sit around and wait. The longer we wait, the further behind we get as an organization. So the job has become a lot more stressful for the play caller / head coach, because it's up to him to get this young rookie quarterback to the level where he can start the first game of the season.
615-737-1025. Our phone and text lines are driven by WilsonCountyHonda.com. Where do you sit on the start versus sit question when it comes to young quarterbacks, and specifically Cam Ward? 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025-1063. The Game.
You talked about learning Cam. You guys are learning each other. What's the biggest thing you think you've learned about Cam since he's been here?
You know, Cam, boy, that's a loaded question. He's really he is very hard on himself. You know what I mean? He holds himself to a high standard and holds everybody else to a high standard. And I think that's been really nice for everybody. You know, we come in there and he's not down, but he's also very consistent. You know, he's like this every day. You know, I'm not sure his heart rate gets above 50. It seems like sometimes you're like, all right, are you excited? Are you happy about it? But he's kind of right there every time. And then I think that consistency, and then he, expects himself to play well and expects the offense to play well. And that's a good standard that have out of that position.
That was Titans offensive coordinator Nick Holes talking about Cam Ward. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you, continuing our conversation. Some historical context for young quarterbacks sitting versus starting right away. Ben Standig, formerly of The Athletic, wrote a story last year looking at data of quarterbacks receiving second contracts with the teams that drafted them. So to recap, of the 22, this was between 2000 and 2022, I would assume, because it doesn't include 2023 or 2024. Of the 22 in that roughly 20-year window, 8 who started week 1 of their rookie seasons received a second consecutive contract. Of the 43 who debuted before week 7, 13 received a second consecutive contract. The 8 week 1 starters, Burrow, Flacco, Lawrence, Luck, Murray, Newton, Ryan, and Stafford, plus Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Daniel Jones, Ben Roethlisberger, and Alex Smith. Debut week 7 or later. Of the 13, 6 received a second consecutive contract. Jared Goff, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Eli Manning, Tua Tagovailoa, and Michael Vick. And this is what we were talking about before the break. Starting debut after drafted season, 6 of 10. Dante Culpepper, Jordan Love, Carson Palmer, Chad Pennington, Phillip Rivers, and Aaron Rodgers. Jordan Love, the only member of that group who was drafted after 2011. So it's just not something that happens anymore. And Derek touched on it. Teams don't have a lot of time to waste. They want to get the most out of these young quarterbacks when they aren't making a ton of money. And they need to know if the quarterback is worth the investment.
Yeah, because from the day the quarterback hits the ground, that's the day your organization starts to turn over and starts to move forward. When you draft a quarterback number 1 in the first round and you expect him to be your future starter, the minute he hits underneath center, that's almost like a reset. Unless you have a veteran team, that doesn't need the reset, but it's just we're just changing the guards at the quarterback hand. But a lot of times it's we're going to start this guy as a reset of the organization, and now the clock start, and I got 2 to 3 years to figure out if this guy is the guy, because in that 4th year he's going to be wanting another contract, and he may want it before the 4th year. So we have to know, as well as him and his camp, is he the guy? Because as we're going with this individual, we're building our team around him. We're trying to figure out if he's the guy, so we're building our team around him. At the end, if you wait too long, it comes out that he's not your guy. Now you got to start all over again, and you may not be able to get that high pick, because you're going to be on this carousel once again, getting a young quarterback and deciding whether to start him now or start him later. Listen, if you got a team, you start that quarterback now. If he's shown you anything and you allow him to develop and you bring him along slowly once you get into the season. A prime example to me was Joe Flacco. He started day 1. They brought him along slowly, but he was surrounded with a solid cast of players that he didn't have to be the leader. He didn't have to put the game on his shoulders. Only thing he had to do was go out and run the system the way it was supposed to be ran. Didn't have to play Superman, and we end up going to an AFC Championship game.
But the Titans don't have that support system in place like you guys did with Flacco. So D-Mace is not being swayed by the numbers.
No,
he is not. Because here is another way to look at this.
That's
right?
what I'm about.
Yeah. Well, we'll see if Cam has to get Duntivity, but the guys that debuted before week 7 is 13 out of 43. That is the open day starters plus the guys who made it made their debut before week 7. 13 for 43. If you at least wait 7 weeks or later,
But how did those
listen,
guys-
no, listen.
how did-
Then you got 12 for 23. Over half got the second contract if you just wait 6 weeks. So
But they're not
I'll
telling
just
us-
ask that question to the listeners. Does it make sense to, based on where the Titans are, doesn't this make some sense to have Cam Ward wait
But
at
they're
least
not.
a few weeks?
Those numbers are not giving the whole picture. They're not telling us, even when they started at week 7, how did that quarterback perform? They didn't give us the
They
numbers
performed
there.
well enough to eventually, a few years later, earn another contract from their team.
But what I'm saying is that whether they played week 1 or week 7, how did they
Well, I
perform
think that's
once
what
they
we
got
have to
under the
realize.
center?
How they do the first couple of times they play
Mhm.
isn't really the whole situation. Otherwise,
Exactly.
Will Levis and Marcus Mariota, who both had great debuts, right? We're
Uh-huh.
like, oh my gosh, look at this. This guy's awesome. And it didn't turn out that way. So how they do good or bad the first couple games isn't the real story. It's, do they eventually develop
Mhm.
well enough to where, yes, I want that guy as my quarterback for the second contract.
And I think there are Titans fans who are concerned that maybe what you saw recently with Bryce Young in Carolina could happen with Cam Ward in Tennessee, because you saw what happened when a new quarterback was paired with an unstable franchise. It was not a good start for Bryce Young. At one point, if I recall correctly, he was benched, right?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Andy Dalton came in, they went back to Bryce Young. But I think there are Titans fans who are concerned about that. What was also interesting is in this article, Ben Standig interviewed EJ Manuel, who was a first-round pick, a quarterback, the 16th overall pick in the 2013 draft. If my memory serves, he was the only quarterback picked in the first round of the 2013 draft. And by the way, like myself, the pride of Virginia Beach, Virginia. But EJ Manuel was quoted in this article from Standig. Manuel's broad advice is to let quarterbacks, quote, sit at least the first 6 games, end quote, to learn the clutch details of the job. Ideally, and beyond organizational patience, that would require a proven starter already on the roster. Having drafted Michael Penix this spring at number 8 after signing Kirk Cousins to a massive multi-year contract, which hasn't worked out, Atlanta will likely continue this approach for at least 2 seasons. But the shortage of viable starters means not everyone has that luxury of time.
Yeah, I get it. Holding your quarterback out, whether it be Cam Ward or anybody else, there is data that says, okay, these guys end up signing second contracts with the team that originally drafted them in. Maybe they end up having a little bit more success. But football each and every year is changing. And regardless whether we like it or not, whether we believe it's the best thing or not, these GMs and these owners, they don't want, they're not in the business of sitting around and waiting on whether, hey, we're going to let him sit for 3 games, or we're going to let him sit, 6 games. I don't think you can put I don't think you can put a number on it, because it just depends on how, what's going on with your team. Prime example, I don't think Joe Flacco was going to be the starter. He wasn't penciled in as starter. It was Troy Smith. Troy Smith ended up getting, really sick. It pushed Joe Flacco to become the starter that season. But I don't think they went in and said, well, we're gonna let Joe sit out 6 or 7 games and then throw him in there. If the kid progresses and develops in practice and he's seeing the things that you want to see out of him, you make the determination from there. I don't think you go in and say, well, I'm going to let him sit 8 games and then throw him in there.
I think probably one of the lessons is you probably shouldn't make the judgment before you start training camp, which it looks like the Titans have done. They've made up their mind. They're going with Cam Ward.
Yeah.
They're giving him all the starters rep. I'm just wondering if it's more of a wait and see, because ironically, you keep using Flacco.
Yeah.
That's your experience. Joe Flacco was replaced by another first-round quarterback who started after week 7.
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson.
And Lamar didn't play great when he became the starter. It was
they worked him in.
They worked him in, and
but it was a
eventually it
successful
worked out.
path.
Yes.
Yeah. He's one of the guys who got the second contract.
Yeah.
The
615.
Ravens know what they're doing.
Yes, they do.
Absolutely.
615-737-1025. We'll get to your reaction on this. Coming up next, Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
D-Mace, Vingen, and Donick. Our debut in drive time. We have moved to the 3 to 6 p.m. slot. Willie Donick, Derek Mason here with you. Adam Vingen still adjusting, so he will be back with us tomorrow. He was with us the first 2 hours of the show. If you missed our beginning of our show, we're very thankful for the opportunity to get into drive time. We've been doing 11 to 2 for especially D-Mace and I have been going way back in that slot. For me, it's the time slot that I was in forever until I moved hanging with D-Mace and Darren McFarland back in 2016 is when I joined them. So I'm really excited to be back in the drive time for the 5 o'clock hour. You get a little extra juice. And a lot of you asked on our text line, we're going to read a bunch of your texts here recently. What about the Predators? How is it going to be with me working in the job that I do now, traveling with the Predators, doing the television? And that is something I will have to adjust. But I have done it. If you go back, my first couple of years doing Predators games, I did the drive time show with George Plaster and Floyd Reese. So it's just an adjustment for the preparation for the game. Obviously, on a game night, my attention is going to be focused a little bit more on that broadcast. But I still will be contributing to the show. So I don't think I'm going to miss any more shows than I have been missing with travel and things like that. So I'm really excited to get back into this slot. So this is going to be great stuff. We are broadcasting for the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership with the Buzz. Is always about great service. Now, D-Mace and I are on opposite sides of this argument about the studies about what to do with a first-round drafted rookie quarterback. When do you put him in? The Titans have really made no bones about it. Cam Ward is going to start opening day unless there's something we're completely missing or they do an about face. And that does make me wonder how poorly would he have to play, or how much would he have to struggle for them to even consider not starting in week 1? Because Brian Callahan has been pretty consistent with what he has said for a while now. And one of his frames of reference is with Cincinnati and what they did with Joe Burrow. So recently, Brian Callahan was asked about that comparison.
Having already been through this number 1 pick process with Joe Burrow, you're clearly experienced, but do you look at any other experiences or consult with anyone else who went through a similar process with a quarterback?
I think you pay attention to it. You know, I haven't sought any outside counsel with people that have been with those guys. But I've watched it, and I've watched the tape too. And just to watch other rookie quarterbacks in the last couple of years play, see what they did well, where they struggled, see if you can't anticipate maybe a problem or two that we could run into just based on what those games look like. So plenty of research done, plenty of things to look at. And on the flip side, look at where some guys have had success. You know, there's been some rookie quarterbacks that have played well over the last couple of years. And what did they do? What positions did they get put in that allowed them to play well? So all of those things factor in. There's really no stone unturned when it comes to getting a rookie quarterback ready. And there's nowhere I won't look for potential edges or advice or anything like that. So it's been a fun process for sure.
Now, D-Base, as you hear that, do you think even if he went to Mike Borgonzi or maybe even Amy Adams Strunk and said, you know what, let's wait and see with Cam and let's let his play do the talking, do you think he could do it if he wanted to do it? Sit him in week 1? Or do you think this is the organization, since they don't have much to rally around, they're kind of
almost stuck.
Yeah,
you're almost stuck between a rock and a hard place. Because not only are you trying to decide on whether to start a rookie quarterback, but if it doesn't work out, you don't start him, who else do you have to fall back on? You don't. I mean, what other superstars do you have on this team that will get people in that building?
None from a marketing standpoint.
From a marketing standpoint, I mean, you got Big Jeff, but outside of Jeff, it's nobody. So listen, he almost essentially, he has to play. This is what, and I'm just being real. He has to play. But it's up to Brian Callahan to develop this quarterback and get him to a space where, listen, it may not look like Jayden Daniels when he first jumped onto the scene, but it gradually gets to that as the season goes. Maybe he doesn't start off playing well. Maybe it happens at week 3 or 4 where it finally clicks. Then we can look back and say, well, what if he hadn't played those 3 games prior to that 4th game? Maybe it wouldn't have clicked. Maybe he got enough experience in those first 3 or 4 games that 5th or 6th game, it finally clicked for him. So this is where the Titans are at, and we know why they are in this situation. They have no choice but to play this young man. If he shows anything, I don't think this thing is going to fall off the map or anything as far as him, his play. But I think you're going to continue to see the ebbs and flows of a rookie quarterback, especially now because, these guys are picked and prodded and analyzed every snap they take from center. Every snap, from the minute they become that guy in practice until they're done. Every snap that they have will be scrutinized, or it will be you would run through run a comb through it, fine-tooth comb through it. That's just where the quarterbacks are right now. So to me, if the guy shows anything, Cam Ward, go out there and let him play, and he's gonna take his lumps.
D-Mace is full speed ahead. Go ahead and let Cam play on opening day. Now, if you missed the last part of the last hour, we did give you the stat from The Athletic where they put together these numbers of first-round draft picks since 2000. So this would be just after Steve McNair. So Steve McNair would not count in this era. So it's 2000 until today. And we also have to shave off the guys who have been just drafted in the last couple years, like Cam Ward, and then last year's class, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, J.J. McCarthy, those guys. And then the year before, even Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, Anthony Richardson, because it's too early to tell if they're going to earn a second contract.
Exactly.
But the measurement we're using is how many of these quarterbacks, and there are 56 that we have on the list, how many earned a second contract with the team that drafted them? So in other words, not Baker Mayfield. He didn't get the second contract with the Browns. How many got the second? If the quarterback started before week 7 of his rookie year, only 13 out of 43 got a second contract with the team that picked him. This is the category that Cam Ward is likely going to be in. 12 out of 23 of the quarterbacks who they waited until at least week 7 or later. Some, they waited the whole rookie year, like Aaron Rodgers, famously, right? He didn't play at all his first year. 6 of those 10 made it. So 12 for 23, week 7 or beyond their rookie year. 13 of 43, either opening day or before week 7. So the numbers would tell you should at least consider not throwing Cam Ward to the Wolves, especially where the Titans roster is.
Yeah,
but
I'm going to consider it.
It doesn't look like they're considering it.
I'm going to consider it, but I'm going to still start him if he shows. They're considering starting him. That's why they put him out there.
We might need to rethink this, okay? Especially we've been watching these practices. It has not gone real well.
But I would rather him take first-team reps with the offense.
And you can do that and still not start him on Sunday.
And him learn through all of this. Him learn in Tampa. Him learn in Atlanta. So hopefully we can get enough time on task for this young man that when he goes into the season, yes, it's going to be hard. It's always going to be hard, whether you're a 10-year vet or not. But you will be a little bit further along in the game, so to speak, if you start him right away. And I know every situation is different, but I don't think the Titans have the time. Brian Callahan doesn't have the time for this young man to sit and wait.
Okay. Well, along those lines, 615-737-1025, our phone and text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. You guys are flooding with your opinions on this topic. Mutt says he asked AI. This may be a new thing on sports talk shows. Just ask AI. Wait a minute. What about Ask D-Mace?
Exactly.
We're going to ask D-Mace
Damn
on
AI.
the show. Yeah, come on. He asked AI for average coach tenure by decade. It says, this was a quick AI thing, however AI does it. It's estimated, but the coach expectancy,
Mhm.
the more recent you get, has gotten shorter and shorter. In other words, teams will
course,
pull the
yes.
trigger quicker. And so coaches feel the pressure. It's hard to sit QBs. There's no question that is probably contributed
not
to why
drafting
it's
him.
13 for 43. They throw
Exactly.
the guy in there when he's not ready.
I get it, but I'm not drafting him only to get fired because I'm not playing him. No, unless I got me Alex Smith or Joe Flacco that can win me some football games.
Robert in Spring Hill says Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady. Of course, Tom Brady was not a first-round pick.
Tom Brady
so
was a
not
6th-round
this,
pick. Come on
right,
now.
so
We got to
he's
throw
not-
Tom Brady out of that.
He's not in this study.
Yeah.
Mahomes is. Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, every top-tier quarterback in the last 20 years sat out for at least half a season, to my recollection. That, to me, is not a coincidence. Well, that's not 100% true, but I do think we just gave you the numbers. There has been a better rate of success
Mhm.
when you do wait at least the first 6 or 7 weeks. Let's go to Gorilla, who is
Gorilla.
is our call line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. 615-737-1025. Gorilla.
Yeah, spelled Gorealla. Not like the memo.
Okay.
I like to go real. Keep it real.
Go real. Okay.
Hey guys, check this out, man. I just want to say you guys are pure competition. I love this line up here, the time that you guys are in. I mean, I'm tuned in. We don't really have real deep football discussions and things like that this time of the day. I don't know why they didn't do this early on, man. And this is the perfect time, football season. You guys are fixing to become stars in this market. But I want to just add this one thing, and that is that who do we have behind Cam?
Brandon Allen.
Well, exactly. And then just kind of pay attention to historically, the NFL they were more of a balanced style offense. You had a mean running game, which helped young quarterbacks. You wasn't really airing the ball out. A lot of quarterbacks were depended upon, but that smooth transition, the last pattern smooth transition we literally almost had was Steve McNair to VY. Everything from that point on has just been in debacle. It's just been like just find somebody to fit in. Right now, we just need a guy. And if you don't play Cam, you're gonna upset this fan base because there's so much hype around him. Because the only thing that we have, guys, being a 3-14 team, is hope right now. That's the only thing that we have. You want me to buy tickets? You want me to go on ahead and purchase my season tickets? Yeah, give me something to believe in. It's not Jeff, right? I'm kind of hyped for Cam, whether he excels or whether he struggles. I think that we ought to kind of pay attention to what Denver did. I'm looking for something similar to Bo Nix with Denver, with the Titans this season.
Okay.
I'll hang up and listen to you guys.
Well,
Thank you, Gorilla.
That is a success story.
Yeah.
And I can understand the temptation because he's all you've got. As we've said, in the backdrop of all this, you've got a new stadium on the horizon. So much is riding on Ward. They don't have a great roster around him. So he's the guy everybody's going to want to see play. If they roll out Brandon Allen on opening day, they'll be like, wait a minute, where's Cam? They're going to get but that's still not really how the decision should be made, in my opinion.
But your roster isn't, the caller was right. Listen, the only way you're gonna get people in that stadium is if Cam Ward is the quarterback. That's the only way. Because they want to see
stadium because
they want to see it
not
now.
in great shape.
Yeah, they want to see it now. They want to see if the decision to bypass those draft picks and for you to draft, they want to see it now. Did you make the right decision now? They don't want you to sit him for a year or sit him for 8 or 9 games and then bring him in and then use that as an excuse of why he isn't developed. No, they want to see him now. And they are paying enough money, this fan base, to go to every game that they expect their head coach to develop their new quarterback. So when they start the season, he is on the field ready to go. That's just the fan base. And it's not going anywhere. And unfortunately, because they haven't had a good team in 3 years, you have to do things. I'm not going to say they're pressured into do it because I truly believe if Cam doesn't show anything, I would tend to believe that Brian Callahan is like, we're going to go get us another quarterback and we may do it a different way. We may start him a little bit later. But if he's showing anything it's almost like you gotta play him, man. You can't sit back and wait.
Texter says, I would like for Cam to wait and learn. But unfortunately, the Titans don't have the team for that. If only we had a better backup quarterback that can start and still win some games and still show us that Brian Callahan is capable of being a head coach with a quarterback that knows how to play NFL ball. So he's not showing much faith in Brandon Allen. So it would just be a big buzzkill. I get it. If you say Brandon Allen's going to start, Cam's just not ready.
You better go get you
But if
another
he's not
quarterback.
ready, he's not ready. That would be my thing. And I would show the numbers. I would say Cam's taking all the reps in practice. We are rebuilding. We're trying to do what's best for Cam Ward. Everything's riding on Cam Ward, but it's hard to play that because when week 1 starts and you're 0-0, your fans are hopeful and they want you to win, and they want you to win with Cam Ward. It's a tough dilemma. Let's go to Terrell from Spring Hill on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com.
Hello guys, how you doing?
All right.
Good.
First of all, I'd like to say I love y'all guys. I'm a teacher. Sometimes I be listening to y'all during the class because y'all at this time. I'm so glad y'all at this time slot. I can finally listen to everyone.
Okay, you don't have to multitask anymore, Terrell. This is good.
But one thing, keep on saying that he called as a math teacher, numbers. I love it. I know. I trust in them. But here's the thing: you keep saying a capable starter. You talking about guys that were in front of these guys that you can listen to. They have been successful. You can watch them, see what they do, ask questions. Cam does not have that. Although Brandon has started some things, but he is not that guy that you like, oh, as a teacher, you had a mentor. I'm quite sure, D. Mace, you had a wide receiver that you can go ask questions when you first came into the league. He does not have that. Now, you also got to understand, and D. Mace got to understand, as a football coach myself, everything has to happen right. So Jaden Daniels, that lob that they won off that Hail Mary, a lot of things went great for them, and them comebacks and everything like that. He's going to be fine. I say play Cam Ward because right now the situation sits. They are betting on the skills of Callahan that he had with Joe Burrow. Can he turn that same skills he did better than him with this guy?
All right, hey, Terrell, thanks a lot for the
Appreciate
call.
And again, a lot of this is going to fall on the lap of Brian Callahan. A lot of, whether Cam is successful or not, I don't think people are going to necessarily, put the blame all on Cam Ward. I can tell you right now, it's going to be the roster, and it's going to be, well, Brian Callahan couldn't even develop Will Levis. Why did y'all keep him another year to develop Cam Ward? So this is an opportunity, and Willie, I know the best thing would be to sit him. I get it, but in today's football, unfortunately, especially with a coach that is basically seems like he on a hot seat, you gotta play him.
Here's a
You have
wrinkle
to,
from Titans history,
especially if he shows you anything.
and this is the post D Mace Titans history. But shortly after D Mace left the Titans and went to the Ravens, the Titans drafted Vince Young, and what happened in camp that year was quite unique because Terrell's case is, look, maybe if they had a better quarterback, if they had better backup, you might feel better about letting him ease into it a little bit more. And Brandon Allen, the fact that it's Brandon Allen, I think, has everybody going, I don't want to see Brandon Allen play. Nothing against him personally, but he has no notches on the belt, right? He's never done anything in the league. The Titans, when they drafted Vince Young, they had Billy Volek, and it was assumed that Billy Volek would start. And then there was a falling out that kind of hit everybody by surprise. Jeff Fisher just turned on Billy Volek and brought in Kerry Collins late in the training camp and started Kerry Collins, even though he was only with the team a few weeks before they threw him in there week 1. And that bought some time for Vince Young, who they did not think was ready. And Vince Young, I can't remember exactly what week he started, but I think it was 5 or 6. It was before the week 7 cutoff. But of course, we know what happened to Vince Young. A very fast start and then leveled off quickly. But I wonder if they would consider bringing in, if somebody falls to them, like the situation in Cleveland, let's say Kenny Pickett. I heard Chase and Big Joe bring this one up, or somebody like that hits the market, and you've got the number 1 waiver wire pickup. Would they consider bringing somebody in as a stopgap if, after a couple more weeks, they just said, look, Cam Ward is not quite ready. We need to give him a little bit of time. This is how we buy time.
I think you would be naive not to.
So you would feel different if they had a different backup?
Yes, I would.
Okay.
I truly would. No knock on Brandon Allen, but bro, you just hadn't had enough snaps. You didn't. When you're dealing with the rookie quarterback, and maybe, Brian Callahan just feels comfortable because Brandon Allen has been through the system. But when you got a rookie quarterback, man, you have to, at least I believe, you have to go in with somebody that has a history of winning some football games, I think. Because especially if you're a coach on a hot seat, if you want to try to, maintain your job, and if it's not working out, that you know that this rookie quarterback ain't starting, you better have a good backup. And right now, I don't think they have a good backup.
615-737-1025. Your opinion on, should they just continue to push Cam Ward right along into the starter's chair for week 1, or should they consider the numbers that I'm putting out there? DVD is going to continue in just a moment. Phone lines are loaded up. You can get in there. We've got your text lines that we're going to read as well. Stay tuned. We're coming back.
Last one. Talk about Cam. The first word you usually hear is confidence. How important do you think that is when he is struggling, things aren't going well, and guys don't see him get rattled?
I think that's an underrated and critical part about playing quarterback in the NFL, because you're always going to have something go wrong. It's just the position, the pressure the position faces, especially when you're a young quarterback that people are counting on. That ability to not get rattled and to not ever dip in your confidence is really what separates guys, I think. And Cam's got a really unique ability to not get flustered, or he never flinches, and he just comes on back and does it again. And that's an important quality for a young player to have, because it's going to be hard. There's no doubt about it. It's a hard position to play. It's a hard position in sports. He's a young player. We have a young team, and he's going to face plenty of adversity, and his mental makeup and ability to handle that and stay confident through struggle, I think, is really important.
Brian Callahan talking about his quarterback. One of the factors of them seemingly putting him in the starter's chair for week 1 here is that despite the struggles and the adversity that Cam Ward has clearly gone through practice, and he's not alone around the NFL, even some guys who have been in the league for a while are struggling right now. If you look around the league at practices, defenses tend to be ahead of offenses. But he believes he's got the mental makeup to handle adversity, and they are likely to have quite a bit of adversity this year if he's going to be their starter because of just where the roster is. Willie Donick, Derek Mason here on DVD. We're taking your phone lines and or phone calls and texts at 615-737-1025, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We're asking the question, should the Titans at least consider waiting to start Cam Ward based on the history since the year 2000 of quarterbacks taken in the first round? Only 13 out of 43 who started before week 7 of their rookie year. So even guys who sat a couple of games are included in this list. Only 13 of 43 even signed a second contract with their team. 12 of 23, a much better percentage, over 50%, signed a second contract with their team if the team waited at least 7 weeks to put them in the starter's chair. Tommy on our text line says this: that stat is irrelevant. Stroud started day 1. We know he's going to get a new deal. It's the player. Stats are crap.
Stats ain't everything.
He's with you. D-Mace is like full steam ahead.
Yeah, just let the kid play.
Another texter says
shown.
D-Mace is spot on. You like this guy. He didn't give his name, unfortunately. But you're okay with this, though.
Oh, yeah, I'm definitely okay with it.
I haven't swayed you at all.
No, I don't think you're going to sway me. The only
I did sway you a little bit by if they were to bring in a better backup.
Yeah, if they would have been. The only thing that will sway me is if I see him in these preseason games and it's evident that he doesn't know what he's doing or he can't pick up on what's going on. Because listen, these defenses are going to be as vanilla as they possibly can be in preseason. So if you can't show that you can play in this league in preseason with defenses, they're only playing cover 3, man, they ain't trying to do anything too exotic because they don't want to show everything. But if you can't come out and have some good outings in these next, in the 3 preseason games that you have, then yeah, we may have a problem. But outside of that, throw them out there, and I'm more concerned about the backup quarterback than I am Cam Ward.
Another texter says most of the quarterbacks that sat had a good quarterback to sit behind, and that's why they were successful. It's a fair point. Brett Favre, Alex Smith, and obviously, in Alex Smith, they were kind of in a bad situation, but certainly Mahomes behind Alex Smith, Aaron Rodgers behind Brett Favre, and Brett Favre, I think, sat.
Aaron
well,
Rodgers,
obviously, he wasn't even on
Jordan
the
Love
he wasn't even on the Packers to start.
Jordan Love behind Aaron Rodgers.
There you go. The ones who had to start, like Baker Mayfield, Caleb, Bryce, didn't have a good veteran to compete with or learn from. That's kind of what I'm afraid of for Cam Ward.
And that's why I say it's not necessarily, you're not bringing in a better veteran to compete with Cam, you're bringing him in to push Cam, Cam get to see what a 8, 9, 10-year veteran guy knows and what he's been through. He gets to pick his brain. Not to say he can't do it with Brandon Allen, but again, I need a guy. If I'm the Tennessee Titans and I sit where I'm sitting with this roster, I need a better backup. I do, because if anything happens to my young quarterback, if my young quarterback isn't showing development through this camp, I shouldn't be stressed out to throw in my second quarterback. I should be able to say, okay, I'm gonna throw him in and then let the young quarterback sit and then go from there. But outside of there, I'm more so worried about the backup guy than I am Cam Ward.
Andrew texted and says, I honestly think the Titans should call Tannehill, make him an offer to help Cam out, give him some time to make sure that this is our future and not feed him to the wolves right away.
I'm gonna make you offer you can't refuse.
Where is Ryan Tannehill right now? Do you think he's considering playing?
Ryan Tannehill name comes up periodically in all of this.
I don't think that's realistic,
I don't
right?
know. Maybe because the last team he was with was the Titans, and they figured he's healthy now. But I don't think they want to go down that road again with bringing in Ryan Tannehill. They will bring in, someone else, but Ryan Tannehill probably not.
One final text, and then we'll hit the break for our last segment here. David texts in as well. It's the Titans. They'll screw it up one way or the other. No matter who's the coach or GM, it's what they do.
See,
fatalism. That's part of this
Yes.
whole equation. When you're down, there is just no confidence in anything you do.
No, and I think that's what, and I've said this before, I think that's what Titans fans, they suffer from that because
big time.
And I don't blame them, because this team has been bad for the last 3 years, and it seemed like everything that they've done has turned up bad with players, drafting players, stuff like that. They haven't seen anything good the last 3 years consistently, especially not the quarterback position. Now they're like, why should we trust them? It's not even so much about Brian Callahan. It's just about the organization, period. Like, why should we trust this organization that they are going to do what's right by Cam Ward and develop this young guy? I would say, because I believe this organization has learned from their past failures with the quarterback, even though I want him to play right now, and I think he should play right now, they understand that they got to take this thing slowly, and they got to build around the quarterback. So, again, this is a 3-year process for the Tennessee Titans. It's not just this year. Cam may come out and do well, and they may win some games. All right. But more than likely, Cam's going to come out. He's going to struggle some. He's going to get a hold of the NFL and get it down, and then he's going to start to develop even more. But yet and still, this team may not be a playoff caliber team until the next year or even after that.
Hot take. We know we're starting camp. This is also off the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We know we're starting camp, so let's cut Van Jefferson and Tyler Lockett. Go all in with the young receivers. D-Mace.
No. We can't do that.
His previous text was, I'm with D-Mace, but now he's going. Now you think he's gone off the deep end.
Yeah. You may have taken a left turn on that one. I get what you're saying. You want the young guys to play. I understand that, but you got to be careful because you don't want to pit a young quarterback with a bunch of young receivers, because just like the quarterback is learning the offense, these receivers are learning the offense, and you want to make sure you have some veteran guys in there that knows how to practice, that knows how to prepare, that knows how to go out and play games, that are trustworthy. Not to say that the young guys, DK and Almanor, those guys will not become that. It's just right now, the best way to help Cam Ward is that you have a veteran guy like Cam Ward or Vance Jefferson, or Tyler Lockett. More importantly, Tyler Lockett and Ridley, because they've been in the league longer. But I wouldn't get rid of those guys unless, if you want to get rid of Bubba, you better go get Terry McLaurin, because receivers, everybody don't start off like Jefferson and Chase and some of these other guys that have come off. Typically, it takes them a while to get going. And we're talking about first round draft picks. These guys that they drafted this year was 4th and 5th round draft picks. Not to say that they won't end up being studs. I hope they are, but I don't think you would be doing your quarterback any justice by throwing him in there with a bunch of young players.
When we come back, we're going to go around the league and ask D-Mace. He mentioned Terry McLaurin. That's one of the big stories going on around the NFL right now. Of course, you got the whole fallout from Micah Parsons and his trade demand that happened on Friday. So we'll hit that and a couple other news and notes around the NFL. This week's Nashville's best deal is Boom Ba's Pizza and Watch Bar, award-winning gourmet pizzas, handcrafted beverages, and get swept up in the thrill of live sports at Boom Ba's Pizza and Watch Bar. Your go-to spot for good times. Boom Ba's has locations in East Nashville. Shout out to the East Side. D-Mace and I have been there.
East Side.
Spring Hill and Murfreesboro also has Boom Ba's. So get half off a $30 gift card now while supplies last at theGameNashville.com/deals. D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick coming your way down the stretch, our first day from the 3 to 6 time slot. And we are going strong. Jimmy Wyatt has put out the 2025 unofficial depth chart. And this will fall in line with what we've been talking about today. There really are no surprises that I can see on this depth chart. Especially if we consider Lloyd Cushenberry and L'Jarius Sneed are still on the PUP. So they're not really considered for starting.
Yeah.
But it's exactly what you would predict. There are no surprises at all. Should we be a little puzzled by that? You've always been one, D. Mace, that has said you want competition in training camp.
That you do. You want competition. But the way this is, I mean, I'm not sure. There's no surprises, but I'm not sure if I thought that there would be any surprises. Because if you watch camp as we have, I don't think the backups have done enough to outshine the starters on either side of the ball. Now, they've talked about the young rookie receivers, but I don't think they've done enough to supplant Tyler Lockett or Van Jefferson to be in that first roster and, on the first team. But ultimately, I mean, they may end up doing that. This is, an unofficial depth chart put up by Jim Wyatt. But yeah, I mean, I wonder how it's going to shake out once we start to get into preseason games, because a guy like Femi Oladejo, is he going to be a guy that can play his way into the starting lineup? Can one of these young receivers play their way into a starting lineup, or, playing starting minutes? Let's say that. So, but outside that, I mean, L'Jarius is hurt, so the defensive backs, Brownlee and Baker, that's what I assumed, going into preseason, that those guys were going to be the two starters. So, outside of the receivers, maybe the linebacker position, there could be some space for a surprise, individual. And maybe once we get in the preseason game, maybe the second preseason game, the lineup looks a lot different than the first one.
That is something maybe we should keep this one and see if there end up being any changes between now and a couple of games into the preseason. Let's go around the league a little bit, D-Mace. Your thoughts on the two players that are making a lot of noise around the league right now, Terry McLaurin and Micah Parsons. It just doesn't seem sensible that either one of their teams would really consider trading them at this point. Do you think either one of them actually will get traded?
I don't think Michael Parsons is getting traded. A team is going to have to give up way too much to get Michael Parsons, and best believe Jerry Jones is going to make it that way. That if you want Michael Parsons, you may want to give up a few first round picks for the next couple of years to get him. So he's going to make it in such a way that either you're going to make the dumb move, or people are going to say, you know what, that's a little bit too much for me. We're going to back off. I expect them to get a deal done. And once they get the deal done, man, and one thing I know about this business is that once that check is cashed, I forget about why I was mad at you. Why was I mad at you again?
Yeah. Well, but
upset.
Why would Micah Parsons be any different? Now, he's only 26. And so I do wonder if there's a team out there that could even scarf together, the amount of draft picks we're talking here, and have the cap space to say, let's go for it. We're a Micah Parsons away from being really good. I don't know off the top of my head who that team would be.
Well,
because Myles Garrett is the one, he was like, I'm out. I'm not playing for the Browns. Well, yes, you are. You got the money.
They gave him enough money.
You're
said,
playing.
okay.
And Garrett's been around a little longer, I think, than Parsons.
He has.
But I'm sure the Browns looked around and said, we can't trade you. Nobody's offering us what we would need to trade you. We're just going to stick it out. So get used to it.
And we'll just pay you
and
the
we'll
money that you want. And he said, okay. And he said, why was I mad at you again? I'm a Cleveland Brown for life. Okay. But again, money cures all sort of contentiousness between the owner and player, or owner and or GM and agent. So I expect Jerry Jones to sign Parsons to the biggest deal that any defensive player has gotten. And then we will not hear about this anymore. The only thing we'll hear about is Dallas Cowboys blowing it once again and either not making it to the playoffs or they're losing the first round.
They're between a rock and a hard place, which is where they find themselves a lot, right? They pay their stars big money. I can see why Jerry Jones is like, well, this isn't working, right? They paid Dak Prescott a ton of money. They paid CeeDee Lamb a ton of money. And when you have so much tied up into such a small amount of players, it's hard to make it right with the rest of your roster. And they play against Washington, who's all of a sudden really good.
They're in a tough division.
And you've got the Eagles, the champions. So
you're in a tough division.
They may be better suited rebuilding, but that just doesn't fly in Dallas,
that's
right?
Not
that's not what their fans want.
Dallas got to stay as Dallas is like, they always got to be in the headlines. They always do. That's just Jerry Jones and the Cowboys. If they ain't in the headlines, then football ain't going. So Jerry makes sure that they're in the headlines already. I mean, all the time. Now, going over to the Washington Commanders and Terry McLaurin. And I was listening to, I think it was Big Joe and Chase. It might have been Big Joe and Chase. Or no. It was Next Man Up with Jake, and I think Jake and Paul was on. And they talked about McLaurin not having the numbers. Well, you got to understand, McLaurin has played with like 5 or 6 quarterbacks.
Yeah, and more than that. Like we listed him on Friday.
It's been a carousel of quarterbacks for McLaurin. And
there's guys that you've already forgotten about that were
Exactly.
starting games for them just a couple of years ago. Sam
Absolutely.
Howell, like Jaden Daniels has made you forget about that list, but that list is very long of guys who have thrown at least a couple of passes to Terry McLaurin. And that, I think that's his argument. Is like, I've put in the time. I've gone through the tough times. I've propped you
Now
up.
pay me.
Now it's time for you to reward me.
And he's right. You know, you had me playing with all these, journeyman quarterbacks, and I still went out there and did my job. I was the basically only bright thing on the offense most of the time. And now you want to kind of like play games with me in regards to signing me. Listen, sports isn't fair, especially not professional sports. But when you have someone like Terry McLaurin who has been in it with you and has been on bad team after bad team, and was, there when the old regime was there as far as owners, you should reward a guy like this, because if you believe your quarterback is who he is, those 13 touchdowns will not be an aberration. He will have 10 next year, McLaurin, or 11 next year, or he may have more than 13. So if you believe that much in your quarterback, pay your wide receiver. That's my thing. I don't think they're going to trade him. Maybe they get something for him. Maybe somebody want to trade for him, but I don't think Washington's not in a place, I think, to get rid of or trade away Terry McLaurin, because they got a good 1-2 punch with Daniels and McLaurin, and the fan base love it. And to get rid of half of that, I think you be doing your own self an injustice as an organization.
We've got a quick ticket giveaway to give out before the end of the show here. And David, I think what you sent me, I'm trying to figure out.
So it is for it's a pair of tickets to go see Robert Randolph at Fog Street Lawn Club.
Okay. So if you are a Robert Randolph fan, you're going to go see him at Fog Street Lawn Club. If you're the third caller, 615-737-1025. Just a little reward on our first show on Drive Time. Now, before we get out of here, D-Mace, I do want to ask you about the Browns quarterback situation, because that's the other thing we wanted to hit in this segment. Kenny Pickett has had a hamstring issue. He's just getting back to practice. Dylan Gabriel also has had a hamstring issue. Shedeur Sanders had a sore arm, so he's missed a little practice time. So Joe Flacco is the healthiest guy of all these guys, and he keeps getting all the first team reps. We know his history a couple of years ago in Cleveland. How do you think that's all going to shake out, especially with Shedeur saying today, "Look, my dad, he's had the health problems. I don't want him to become the story, so I'd rather have him not come."
I'm not sure what is going on in Cleveland, because you hear conflicting things. You hear Shador's doing really good. Then you hear, oh no, he's not doing really good. He's not even getting reps, or he's getting the first or the second team reps. So it's just been this inconsistency with the messaging coming out about their quarterbacks. I believe the way it's going to go, Joe going to end up being a starter because I think he gives them the best opportunity to win early, I believe. And then it's going to be between Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders. Whoever wins that number 2 spot and the third guy, they may keep him on the roster because if you put him on a practice squad, you chance to losing him. So they may end up having Joe Flacco as a starter and 2 young quarterbacks.
Well, we'll keep an eye on that one for sure, especially in the context of what we've talked about all day today, and that is the Titans and Cam Ward. No media availability tomorrow at practice. They'll be back on the practice field Wednesday morning. We'll be checking that out, and we will continue our action tomorrow on DVD, our new time slot, 3 to 6, and we look forward to Adam rejoining us tomorrow. Great opening act.
Absolutely.
D-Mace, I'll see you tomorrow at 3.
Absolutely. Hey, love on your people. Be loved. Have a safe, blessed, and wonderful Monday. I know y'all are headed home, so keep your eyes on the road. I love you. Peace.